Hi everybody, we're picking up where we left off, and this is in the middle of Gaius Mucius' speech to Lars Porsena. Again, this is book 2 of Livy, and we're on page, I think, 161 of Wheelock's Latin Reader by Richard Lafleur. So we had finished up with the beginning of Mucius' speech. Romano sum, I am a Roman, he says. So this is a classic kind of historical present, right? We have it in a present tense form, inquit, but of course Livy is talking about something that's happened about 500 years before his own time. We're talking about it now 2,500 years ago. The present keeps the kind of form moving a little bit faster. We're not always in the perfect system, but it's clear that we need to interpret this as happening in the past. So a good English translation is, he said. So I'm a Roman, he said, a citizen, a Roman citizen. They call me Gaius Mucius. Good, and that's where we left off. So now hostis hostem occidere volui. So we got lots of things going on here. Hostis can be a couple things. If we look up the dictionary entry, it's hostis, hostis, and it can be either masculine and feminine. Typically, for the Romans, this is going to be a masculine enemy. And then hostem, we have the same thing. So we either have a nominative or a genitive singular, and then we got an accusative direct object here. So that's pretty clear, at least. And then occidere, well, we know that means to kill, to cut down. And then volui, well, you have to know your dictionary entries and have actually had your note cards and memorize these things to really identify this one. This is coming from the irregular verb volo, vele, and then volui. There's no fourth principal part. They don't be wanted in this sense, but this is to want, to desire. So what we have here from this volui is our third principal part, which you should know is always first person, singular, and then perfect in tense. And that's also active indicative, clearly, but first person singular perfect. I wanted. That's what volui means. So what does that mean, to want something? Well, it doesn't really mean much on its own. If I say, I wanted, people are going to look at you and say, what did you want? Did you want a thing, or did you want to do something? This verb, the meaning of it, invites what we call a complementary. And it's complementary with an E, not the kind of flattering complement, the completing complement. Complementary infinitive. And that's what we have here. I wanted to kill. So we can really treat this as a kind of verbal unit all in its own. Let me kind of clean things up a little bit. So we have our main verb, which is volui, so that's going to be our verb. This is our complementary infinitive. And these two kind of work together, they're a bit of a unit. And then we've got our direct object, and that's going to be the direct object, most directly, haha, of the complementary infinitive occidere. So to kill a hostem is really the object of the want. We might kind of think of this as all the object of the wanting. I want a bike, I want a present, I want enemy killing. That's kind of the notion here. But then what do we do with hostis? Well, it could be genitive, as we said, in which case it'd be modifying hostem. So I want to kill the enemy of an enemy. But as you know, an enemy of an enemy is a friend, so that's probably not what Mucius actually wants. It's going to be better to take this as a nominative. But then we got a little bit of a problem, right? Because our subject of the sentence is first person singular. I. But now we have another competing subject, this enemy, hostis. So you've seen this before, I'm sure you can interpret it, but what we're saying is I, comma, being an enemy, wanted to kill an enemy. So this is nominative, this is the subject, but it's also in apposition, we might say. That's where you put something next to something else. My friend, Gaius, let's say, then we say, well, Gaius is equal to a friend. Here we say I, hostis, I, an enemy, wanted to kill an enemy. So he's kind of giving a defense for himself. He's saying, well, yeah, I was trying to kill you, but I was doing it because we're enemy combatants. That's how this game works. Nec, as we know, that's just and not. We might need to delay the translation of that not for later in the sentence. Ad, classic preposition, is going to take the accusative. We get that right here with mortem, so death from mors mortis, a nice third declension noun. It's feminine, but that doesn't really, I think, It doesn't even matter what the gender is here. Minus. Well, what is minus? We know parvus, and that equals less. Or no, that doesn't equal less. That equals small. I'm getting ahead of myself. Small, few. And then minus is the comparative. This is one of these irregular comparatives, but we have that in English too for a lot of things. We've got good, better, best. Better and best, you can see how those are connected, but they don't really seem to have any, morphological connection to good. This is the sort of thing we have here. Parvus turns into minus, not parvior or something like that. So this can be either an adjective, or it can be, as we have here, because minor, as we don't do with like minor quizzes, that's the masculine or feminine form. Minus is the neuter form, but it's also an adverbial form. You'll see this a lot with comparatives, where the what's in essence, I should say, a neuter accusative singular takes on this adverbial meaning. We've seen that before with facile. It's really from facilis facile, but it means easily because it's a neuter accusative singular, and that gets us this adverbial meaning. So that's what we have minus here. So less. Less is how we want to translate that. And then we get this animi from animus, soul, but we might say courage, pluck, if we're British or something like that. So less, literally, of soul. And this is one of those partitive genitives that we've seen before. You can imagine that there is this big pile of soul out there, and we're saying not a small chunk of it. So not less than that. So this is these two are working closely together. Less of soul. So note that we've got a genitive here, we've got an adverb here, but this is all going to function kind of as a noun. I know that's a little bit weird to think, but we could say that there's and toward death, less of soul there is not, because we've got the neck here. Quam. Well, what's that quam doing? It could be the relative pronoun, but we don't have any feminine accusative singular thing exactly that we're going to be working with. I guess it could be mortem. But this minus is really, kind of making us aware, this is going to be a clause of comparison after that comparative minus. So there is not less of soul toward death than there was. So is now, we might say, and then was then, toward killing, toward cutting, toward murdering the king. So let's again kind of clean up the notes and look at this a little bit more big picture. So we've got a connector here. That's just easy. That's and not. Ad mortem, we've got this adverbial thing. This is going to tell us a little bit more about maybe what the soul is for. Minus, animi, we're going to take together as the subject of this second part of the phrase. It's the subject of this verb est. And then we're going to get this quam clause, which compares this subject and verb relationship to another subject and verb relationship. So again, we kind of need to supply this missing subject of amount of animus, of courage, etc. And then here we have our verb, willing, was, and then ad caedem. So note that we've got a little bit of a chiastic or chiasmic word order here. Ad mortem est fuit ad caedem. So we've got A, B, B, A, right? We've got the purpose, and then we've got the verb. That's what's going on here. And then we have less of soul here, but we know then we're talking still an amount of soul here. So to translate this entire sentence, an enemy, as an enemy, I wanted to kill an enemy. And there is not, toward death, less courage, and we might kind of supply a mihi. I don't have less courage toward death now than I had toward killing then. Et facere et pati fortia Romanum est. Et. So this first et we might think is just an and, but then we have another and here, so we know that this is a both. Both and. Both to do, and what's pati? Well, it's the patior is the verb. Sorry, that looks like partior. Patior to suffer, and because it's deponent, our present infinitive is going to look like that. Suffer, to suffer. So both to do, both to commit, and to suffer, fortia. Well, this is literally from fortis, forte, brave, strong thing. And then if we make this, so that's an I stem, one of these adjectives. So fortia is going to be what? Well, it could be either accusative or nominative, neuter plural. And that's what we have going on here, this accusative. Oops, sorry there. To do and to suffer brave things, strong things, is Romanum. So what's that ending? Could be a lot of things, but I'll tell you it's nominative and it's neuter. And it's because we're working with these infinitives. And infinitives, like gerunds in Latin, are always neuter singular. So that's what we have here. Doing and suffering brave things, that's a Roman thing to do. That's what this means. So I think it's now almost 12 minutes in. Time to pause, start a new video, but we'll continue on in the next unit right here with Nec Unus. See you then.